Mike Burgess, hello.
Thanks.
Welcome to CrossCode.
Excellent. This lady seems really into this city that she's staring at.
Tell me how anime does this feel so far?
Pretty anime. I feel like it needs like some ships, but like I definitely feel the anime. She's got like the antennas.
Yeah.
She's got like the weird cyborg head, but there's also a ponytail in there somehow.
Yeah.
And also she's got like the bracers and sleeves that don't connect to her skirt.
Totally.
You know, it's good.
It's a classic look.
Yeah.
And if this might make you feel better, she is on a boat currently. She's on a ship, I would say. Yeah. So this is CrossCode. I've been talking about this game for a long time.
Yeah.
It came out on PC in 2018, and it just recently came to console. And I thought the best way to demonstrate CrossCode is to demonstrate CrossCode.
Yeah, definitely.
So I wanted to. I beat this game, but I made a save file for like a spot that I think would be pretty good to show off.
Cool.
And show not just like one or two parts of the game, but kind of show every cool everything that I think is really cool about it while still being pretty early on.
Okay.
So let's take a walk through here. What do you know about CrossCode already, Mike?
I know kind of some basic stuff. I know like it's you can see it's top down. I know it's somewhat Zelda inspired, but not really. And I also know that it's like in how every anime is now. It is
set in an MMO. Yeah, as with all great anime, you're in an MMO.
Yeah. Do you know like that has become such a thing that they like get it has its own name in Japan and everything? It's like I think it's like a isekai. Isekai is the term.
Oh, I've heard isekai as a term just generally. I didn't know that that's what it was. So
I'm pretty sure that's the term. It's basically the like, hey, the real life people in real life go inside a video game, but then the video game becomes real life. And if you die in the game, you die for real.
If you die in the game, you die for real.
Or maybe your life is better in the video game. I don't know. It always goes one way or another.
So, yeah, I mean, CrossCode is that. What I like is I feel like it kind of plays with the conventions of that to some extent. Mm-hmm. So CrossCode is set in a very fictional, distant future where humans have kind of civilized outer space and the Milky Way and have learned to explore the galaxy, and they're terraforming planets and stuff. They make a point in the lore. There's only like one lore tab about it of like there's no other intelligent life out there. It's just animals that they found on other planets that are hospitable, which is interesting. But the idea is that this big company, Instatainment, basically bought a moon of this planet Shadoon, and they turned the moon into a giant MMO amusement park. So everything that is here is physically really here. And we are occupying these avatar, like literally avatars that just kind of throw themselves together with this blue matter. This kind of like very light all-purpose material that can shape and reshape itself. And people log on to their computers across the galaxy and then appear here, as physical things that walk around this actual real world. Which is cool. I think that's a really cool MMO idea just in general.
Yeah, they made the MMO real.
Yeah, to some extent. What's cool, so like this is a little bit of the map of this first area. So if I go to the world map here, right? So this you kind of get introduced to it pretty early on. But this is the whole world, right? This is like the continent. I don't know if it has a name. But you start over here in like this little set of islands, and that's where that first shot is from.
Okay.
Oh, actually, we can go to the Rhombus Dungeon. Sorry, it's been a while. The controls are eluding me. And what's cool is like I like as a video game, it's a single player RPG, but they lay it out in a way that is very much like an MMO. So you start in this like very pristine tutorial area that's very like new age. And it kind of ends here, which looks like I love it because it looks kind of like a lobby for a hotel, but outside.
It looks like a Phantasy Star lobby.
Yes.
More specifically, yep.
Yeah, and I'm not super familiar with Phantasy Star, but I know you are, so I feel like some of this stuff is going to speak to you in a pretty big way.
It definitely has, yeah.
Yeah, and I like also like we're going to see a lot of this, but characters just kind of talking out in the wild that you can also like tab through. You don't have to sit and wait for them to talk. They give you the option to kind of tab through, but also like, you know, there will be people that you can go out and talk to. But right now we are in the end game city, which is called Rhombus Square, which is a great name for an MMO city, like a JRPG city.
Catch me at the Rhombus Square.
So you actually come to Rhombus Square right at the beginning, but you can't go down. See, like down there is where the city is until you've beaten the main kind of area, like the main story path. Okay. And what's cool, like I will say, as someone who has beaten the game, I wasn't really sure if like at certain points throughout the game, you're like, oh, we're just like not going to be in the MMO, or like this is going to be, it's going to go somewhere else. But they follow through on the MMO execution. So you come back here and you get items that make all the areas more dangerous and have you kind of go back and explore them. It's really cool. That's cool. It reminds me a lot of like
post game kind of thing.
Yeah, it reminds me of very traditional post game, but it's cool that structure is in a single player game. As someone who likes that idea but doesn't necessarily want to go and play every MMO.
Yeah.
So you leave Rhombus Square and you go to Rookie Harbor, which is like the starter town. I like that you start at the end and then they kind of send you off on the adventure, and that's when you go up to the continent and you have to kind of follow this path through there. But so generally, like, you know, playing CrossCode, it's RPG stuff. You know, you go through towns, you talk to people. This is get quests. There's a lot of open up the menu here. There's a whole lot of. I just grabbed every side quest and didn't do any of them. But you know, it's
as you do.
It's a whole lot of, you know, this top one, like get some of these materials from killing monsters. You know, okay. I won't lie if I would be lying.
Real MMO.
Yeah, it's a real, you know, it's, and I think what's fun is like they lean into that a little bit with like your character has kind of a speech problem. She can't fully talk, so she just has to react with facial expressions, and by the end of the game you're just like, yeah, all right, get on with it. like just give me the checklist and we're gonna get out of here.
Tell me
what to do.
What I gotta.
And there's some really, really good side quests that end up mixing up what you do a lot, but the kind of general thing is you are a person who's in an MMO for like outside reasons, for real life reasons that are complicated. Your name's Leah. It's a blue-haired girl, and you have to basically play through all of I forget. I don't actually know what the game itself is called. I keep forgetting, but you have to play through the track, which is like the main story quest with the hope of restoring some lost memory. So a lot of the game is just, you know, playing through the track and playing the game in the game, and it's fun. I'm gonna show off a couple of aspects of it, but it's really cool. How much is this speaking to you, yay or nay, so far? This town vibes.
After kind of hearing the like more MMO trappings of it, I definitely now see what you're saying. Like here's like your town square. The one thing that I think it's missing, and I think this is probably like the obvious reason, is like there needs to be about 60 people standing around this fountain, just like, and you're just seeing a million pop-ups just being like, please, I'm selling these coins. Please, we need one more healer for this thing. Please. I just need that. Join our guild and click on this link. It's totally fine.
Yes.
You won't get a virus.
What I do like is like you'll see people running by, always going back between the kind of spawn areas. You also, like when you're out exploring the world, there are just other quote unquote players
like,
running around.
Like just doing stuff.
That's
definitely like the fun, the good way to represent all of it being like an MMO world of like people just like going back and forth doing quests.
Yeah, and then another kind of secret thing that I found out a few hours in, you have like this inspect option that you can use to look at stuff, but every player has a name, has like a username.
Oh, wow.
So you can go over and see what every single quote unquote player character has a different username.
Right.
Some of them are pretty friggin' good, dude. There's a lot of Destiny 2 online like esque names that are just like fun Easter eggs. Like I think I saw SSJLFF for Goku 99, which is really good.
My favorite stuff.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that in here, but it never feels like shitty, It never feels like
it's not like a bunch of racist expletives.
Yeah, it's always like the more lighthearted, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. But the fact that like Emily, the person that's with me, the person in my party, she is she is another person in this world that has her own kind of circumstance that kind of comes up as you play. What I like is you just totally stumble onto Emily in that starting area and then party up and just hang out.
Cool.
So you develop a relationship from there. But like I've definitely had like, I just started playing this game and then another player came up to me and said like, hey, you want to party up? And kind of going from there. I'm just gonna skip. We won't get into any of the side quest stuff necessarily here, but
I saw a dude named Shady Guy. And
Shady Guy, yeah. I think this is like one of the side quests I was midway through I had to get some experience for the area I was next because it was very difficult. But so you'll note that like Leah can only say a couple of words. She basically has to have words hard programmed in for her, where everyone else can kind of just speak freely. She can say like, "Hi, Leah. Why? Hi." And like that's kind of it. That's her just yelling at people those same 4 words over and over again. But they play with that a lot, and it's really fun. So like a game I've compared this a lot to is Alundra. And I know you've heard me ranting about it. I don't know have you played Alundra at all?
I have not. No.
One of the things that Alundra did was a lot of like platforming, like specifically like this, where it's like, oh, this is 1 tile up, and then this is 2 tiles up, and now that I'm 2 tiles up, I can kind of get around a little bit more. What's cool is like it's an auto jump, kind of like Ocarina of Time. So.
Cool. So you're just sleeping.
Yeah, a big problem with Alundra was that the precision on the jumps was really rough. And this is like maybe the only top-down 2D game where I'm like auto jump is the total right call. Like you just point and you get exactly where you need to get to, And I like that because they just do this great thing of when you're walking around, there are really fun like little puzzles kind of hidden in the environment that you have to figure out how to get to. And sometimes like you go through multiple screens or whatever to kind of get up to them. Like, okay, I can get up here and then use this path to maybe get over here. And then there's a chest here. And then, oh, look, I solved like kind of a little puzzle, but there's stuff like that all over the place. Which...
Yeah, reasons to like look around everywhere.
Yeah, and sometimes like we saw a little bit in the town that there are like those trading posts. Like everything in this game is like you get certain amount of item and trade for another item with a small fee on top. Like there's no crafting necessarily, but it essentially kind of nets out the same. So I like that there's like another player that kind of takes you through stuff and explains early on, oh yeah, you could go explore and find all the chests in this area, and then you'll probably have enough loot to kind of get to the next area, or you could do a bunch of the side quests in the town, or you could grind out the enemies and then trade for all of like the top level gear in this area. All of those 3 things are kind of a valid option. It just depends on how you want to do it. And it's very, it's true to a mechanical experience, but it feels very cozy in CrossCode. It's very comfort foody.
Yeah, I can see it's very like again, going off of like MMO aspects, it's like you're just kind of, I can feel kind of like that leisurely of like walking around like a big open environment. Because I haven't played it recently, but I did like earlier this year get into Final Fantasy 14.
Mm-hmm.
So like, that's a pretty big MMO, and just like I can see the roots.
Yeah.
Of everything. Just being like, okay, yeah, just just wandering an area to get to this thing, and it's just kind of, you can stop and fight dudes, but you don't really have to, and
Yeah, and you'll get it. You
go plot your own path to an extent.
You'll get experience, or you'll get crafting items and stuff that you might need while you're going, but you don't have to. And there are other things that you can do to kind of get yourself on the same level. Like if you just like exploring the areas and getting the chests the most, which I'll be honest is like totally my favorite part because it's the most Metroidvania part of it. Right. Then I've got great news. You can just do that and fight a few enemies, fight the bosses. You'll get enough experience to get leveled up, And like a cool thing, we're not really going to be able to see a lot of the best parts of combat here, unfortunately, because it just gets more and more complicated as it goes up. But
right.
It's really cool, it's simple. You have your basic melee attack, which is just a 4-hit combo. You have this, if you hold the right analog stick in any direction, you charge up balls. They have a name, but they just call them balls all the time.
Excellent.
But what's cool is you'll see it like it'll power up, and then I can get a charge shot periodically, so I can shoot like that, or I can hold in their weaker, faster shots. And then you have a dodge and like a shield. But you have a core ability. Those are your 4 things that you can do at any given time. But you have basically a special that you can do on any of those moves as well. So I could do like my spin attack. I could do my charge bullet rain attack. I could do like a powered up shield that'll like auto counter. Or I can do like a dash attack that like grabs an enemy and does a lot of damage to them. So like they take that those kind of 4 things you do, and then they evolve them, and then as you play through the game, you actually get 4 different elements that all have their own skill trees. So like when you're in the fire element, all of your abilities will do this. When you're in the ice element, all of your abilities will do this, or have different properties, stuff like that, which is really cool. It's simple, but it's pretty elegant. Like just kind of you figure it out as you go, pretty organically. So the other thing I wanted to show off here, I'm going to warp up here to the kind of second area. I want to make sure that we got to see some of a dungeon, because the dungeons in this game I think are really cool. There are, I think there are 5 of them, and they're all kind of tied to an element generally. And this first one is in the Snow Town. So it's an ice dungeon where you get the fire element. And I want to show it off because the puzzles in this game are buck wild. I don't even know I don't know who designed the puzzles for this, but they're incredible. Like I'm super impressed. Hopefully I'm not too weak to like do nothing to these guys. I think I can just actually and this is like a very different part of this game, but we'll see if I can find something. It's you've got traditional kind of Zelda puzzles in here as well, but a lot of it is based on trajectory. So this first dungeon is kind of based on these little bombs because they're gonna change once I get the fire element. But for now, I can kind of hit them with a ball or with a melee attack and set them up to to knock them around to blow up these like general bricks that are in the way, all-purpose bricks.
The evil glow bricks.
Evil glow bricks, indeed. So what's cool is a lot of this game is like, hey, you're gonna have to like use trajectory to do different tricks. So like that's a very, very simple one, but it's a whole lot of you're going to bounce this shot off this wall to hit this switch, but this shot's going to bounce off about 6 walls before it gets to where it needs to get to. And I really thought I would get sick of it by the end, but I did not, because they...
Oh, here we go again. I gotta...
Yeah, more more trick shots, because the thing about it is hitting a trick shot like that always feels good, like when you actually are able to nail it.
Yeah, when you figure it out and you're just like, oh yeah.
And then the other aspect is a lot of it is trial and error, so you're going to mess up a lot, so it's kind of expected. I'm trying to get this, see if I can get this to blow up on it. Yeah. And there are like kind of tricks to each enemy to make their guard break, and that's, you'll be able to do extra damage. And it actually kind of has a stagger system similar to Final Fantasy VII Remake, where you'll have like a little meter that builds up, and then once the meter breaks, that's when you'll
knock them out,
stun them.
Cool.
I'm curious, like I can't really tell if there's like how much the Phantasy Star inspiration is in this, like aesthetically. Does it definitely feel like it's coming from someplace?
I would say it's like little parts that little part like very much like NES RPG, or SNES RPG.
Yeah, Secret of Mana.
I can see a whole lot of like, FF6 and in the environments specifically.
Yes,
and
totally.
Like Chrono Trigger 2 and like Secret of Mana and like those kind of
Square Enix
action
era,
RPG games. But I would say like character, I mean I've not seen too many of the characters, just like this lady and some of the other people, but I can definitely see some Phantasy Star influence, like early Phantasy Star, because like now they've gone like full on like cybernetic robot everything, or this is kind of like in between that.
Yeah, and there are different kind of areas of the game that lean into that a bit more, but not quite all to where current Phantasy Star is at. Phantasy Star Online 2 or whatever would be at, from what I've seen at least.
Yeah.
But I know the horns and some of the enemy designs, people have told me kind of stick out as Phantasy Star as well.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, because they're definitely like more like the Phantasy Star stuff is more like in the character concepts and stuff is very robotic, but there are also like environments you go to.
Yeah,
they're a little bit more natural, and like some of the creatures and stuff you fight are like a little bit more natural, like some of the stuff I've seen when you're running around in that kind of foresty area earlier.
And what's cool is like they're all presumably made of this I forget, like zero matter or whatever they call it.
Yeah, the blue goo.
The blue goo, which just shapes and reshapes, and like they don't get into it as much as I would probably like want because I just love lore and I'm such a lore nerd.
Yeah.
But you're
telling me there's not a CrossCode grimoire you can open up.
They get into some stuff that that I would not disappoint. I will say, but they talk about how the blue matter or whatever is like super lightweight. So like an avatar weighs like 10 pounds maybe. But it's all like scientifically proportioned down, so to other blue matter stuff you're just normal. So it's when you're fighting enemies that are bigger than you or whatever and stuff, that's why it all kind of contextually fits. But if a real ass human walked up in here, he could just like Goliath punch you through a wall,
Okay.
And some of the buildings and stuff are also made of blue matter. So if, let's say, a person walked on the floor, it wouldn't really be able to sustain the weight of a human being. It would be able to sustain the weight of its creatures and stuff. But like 130-pound human is kind of proportionally way crazier than anything that this is made out of. Which is cool. It's just such a... Again, when they kind of peer into that science stuff, and I don't want to spoil anything, but they definitely tantalize me with a few things.
Background, like how that's all.
Yes, how does
they made
work?
This world, more or less.
Yeah, and it's cool because you meet a lot of people that are kind of outside the world, and they have a very human perspective on it, and so as the player kind of just coming into it, there we go. So you can see it takes a couple of shots, but once it's done, it's like, oh, that was cool. It's never not cool for me.
Yeah, it is neat.
It's it's such an odd specific mechanic to hang your like whole ass game on, but it works so well. And I'll be honest, like I was worried that it was gonna be kind of, again, like it would lose its luster at some point, but
just having that kind of one thing going.
These guys suck.
They're little bugs. So, do you know like the development history of these folks or anything? Or?
I know a little bit about it. I know that this game took a very long time to make.
I was curious about that too, because you can kind of tell, because I was like, admittedly, like I kind of knew it from offhand, but I didn't realize like there's definitely a lot of like nice animations in the pixel art, and the environments look nice.
It's really polished. And it was an Indiegogo game, so like that'll tell you how long ago this was. Okay, this was fun. It was either 2012 or 2010 maybe. I think is when it was funded, and there's like a thanks to our Indiegogo backers, kind of at the end of the game. So I don't know if it was before or after Kickstarter, if that's what that means, or kind of around the same time, and they didn't necessarily want to do that whole thing. But I know it went into early access at some point. It was on early access on Steam for a while, and it was a big deal when it released, I think, toward the end of 2018 or toward the middle of it. And it definitely had some critical acclaim at the time. Like it reviewed well on PC. I know, it got where I heard about it was on the Giant Bomb Game of the Year podcast.
Watching it on there as well.
Yeah, so that's kind of where it first popped up on my radar. And I played a little bit back then, but I just don't really have a good PC setup, so I was waiting. So there's a little key, which I like. Again, you use the balls to shoot the keys, man. It's in everything. I was waiting to kind of get it on console, and here we are. So I don't know if this is going to like boon the success of CrossCode a ton, or if it's going to be if it's still going to be kind of an indie.
Like there's like some a little bit of technical issues with some of the console stuff.
Yeah,
so I'm curious how that's being perceived, but
yeah, for like point of reference for me, the game definitely crashed many times while playing it, and it was never like, the game has a great autosave system. Essentially every time you open a new screen, it autosaves, so like I rarely, if ever, lost progress, and so it wasn't a huge deal, but it definitely was pretty frequent, which is a bit of a bummer. But I don't know, it runs very well, surprisingly, and I heard there's some frame rate issues on Switch, but if you it's on Game Pass, so like I would just say like start there and maybe buy it on
look on Game Pass,
another platform if that's more comfortable. But it's weird because it does crash a lot, but I still kind of wholeheartedly recommend it. It's a little inconvenience for what turns out to be like a top star game for me, in all cylinders game for me. I'm gonna get it, I swear. Oh, I forgot you just hit it to make it blow up. Or miss it.
It's the elusive rocks.
The elusive explosive rocks. And there's some of this too. I'll say like, and I don't mean like this necessarily, because that's not a super difficult puzzle, but there's a lot of like, there were a couple of times like very much at the end where I was like, man, I don't even know where to go from here. But I will say I never gave up once during CrossCode, where I've definitely given up in other less favorable games.
You just kind of hit a point, you're like, I'm good. Yeah, no, I totally get that.
And just kind of like looked it up, but I did figure out everything eventually. Oh, whoops. And also like, stuff. I forget this because this is the fucking first dungeon, but stuff like this like doesn't really happen later in the game. Like they really don't reuse a lot of concepts. So this very A Link to the Past Turtle Rock puzzle.
Yeah, you time your shots to make the platform go the right way.
Oh fuck. I want to see where are we at on time. This might be we're at 30 minutes. I wanted to see if we could maybe get to a boss, but we don't have to necessarily. Not I guess we wouldn't get to a boss, but the mini boss here. But the kind of like last touches just to say about it, because it goes places. You know, it ended up being a really cool story. It has a lot of heart, and it's just like a really deep game. Like mechanically, I think there's a lot of nuance here that even as I was playing it and it was trying to explain some of it to me, I was not quite getting it. And by the end of it, you kind of have to if you want to do some of the optional like end game challenge RPG stuff. And I don't know how much of that is like required to get everything in the game, but I definitely had a lot of fun doing it. So I see. And there is some of that. Like if you wanted to end game, there's some of that.
If it's there.
But yeah, it's also very long. So like I don't think you're gonna run out of stuff to do anytime soon. So like this is, let's say this is like a mini boss. And what's cool about mini bosses, they all have weaknesses for sure. And the bigger enemies and stuff, there's a lot of like, oh, let me figure out how to like stagger this enemy to then do severe damage, like do actual damage. Gotcha. Which is cool. I like that stuff. And, you know, I like that stuff in Final Fantasy VII Remake. I know that doesn't necessarily appeal to everybody. But it was cool to see that a similar idea of a very big game in a very little game that came out 2 years ago.
Yeah, knocking him into a state to do all the damage.
It's classic video game stuff.
Yeah,
hit the thing to find the weakness to do the damage. But yeah, what do you think, Mike? Give me your thoughts. How are you feeling?
This is definitely a lot more interested than looking at this now than I thought I would be. Honestly, like I just like the kind of the general art style of it a lot.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Maybe
man.
I just didn't look at it enough.
It's a different thing in motion, I'll say, like, to be fair. Like, once you kind of see how fluid it is, and it's like, oh wow, this is like a 60 FPS, looks pretty sharp.
Yeah, and it's just running, and there's a lot of interesting concepts. It seemed I guess there's just like a combination of like that, and also like I heard it was kind of like a lot of puzzles, but like but now like watching it seems like it's a nicer spread of like, you know, doing this kind of combat, but also like trying to figure out the puzzles.
There are in the later dungeons, there are sections where it is like pretty prolonged puzzle time. But like, I don't know, when I got to them, because you know, you spend a few hours in the dungeons. Like I would say each dungeon they're dense, like they take a couple hours to get through. But you know, on the long end, maybe an hour and a half optimistically. But there's so much more overworld stuff. Like you're running around doing quests and fighting monsters. You know, depending on how you want to play, so much more generally. And you know, side quests are a really good way to get experience, kind of like all MMOs. So doing them behooves you. So I feel like once you get to the dungeons, and you know, you'll have challenge rooms like this where you have a boss or a couple enemies. They're a welcome like break from everything. It's like, wow, this feels different. This different aesthetic. It's challenging in a totally different way than the rest of the game. So I feel like they're welcome breaks.
Yeah, and I know you said like that she kind of has this standard combo and like kind of different special abilities she can bust out at some point. So, like, but is there anything else other than that to, like, is there any more combat things you unlock throughout there, or is it more just like kind of like let's see, you have like all your stats at the top, so is it more like upgrading that kind of stuff?
So you will get more SP, which is, you'll see like I'm generating SP as I do combos and do damage, and that's what lets me do specials, right? So any level 1 special move takes 1 SP. Also, just I haven't pointed it out, but the healing item in this game is a sandwich, so the upgrade of it is a high sandwich.
I also like just water.
Yeah, just water. Molten
water.
ice held in some sort of container, dangerous in large volumes. Yeah, there's a lot of good food in this that turns out pretty good.
That is good. I like just water.
Yeah, it cures any sicknesses, any status effects. So it's just water.
I like it. It's true. Just true. That's all you need. Just water.
Just water. And it's fast. There are no other moves, but there is like I said, there's kind of nuance to it. And keep in mind, so like this is the ice dungeon where you get the fire elemental. There is also a ice element and a wave element and a shock element. So it's kind of wind, electricity, ice, and fire, which is a cool. I feel like just those 4 is pretty uncommon.
Yeah, because like you said, it seems like it's more not necessarily about all the things you can do in combat, but like how to use the tools you have to like beat like a kind of like challenge, how the bosses challenge those things, so to speak.
Exactly, and so like it'll be. I'm switching between wave and shock for this boss's 2 forms. One is wave, one is shock, right? So I'm going to use shock on the wave form and wave on the shock form to kind of play to their weaknesses. And since you're kind of constantly going back literally between 2 full skill trees, you have a whole different set of specials that can behave totally differently in shock versus wave, and you can switch them literally on the fly. So it's kind of like a little Devil May Cry-esque. The weapons are all like the same archetype, but do different things. And so the special moves are usually pretty similar, but some have like very different characteristics. So it feels very varied in a way that I guess it's hard to appreciate early on, but you get there. This is like one of the kind of running parts of the plot is that Emily and Leah like to race when they go through dungeons. But they just talk all the way through, which is it's a very sweet relationship. And Emily also hates bugs, and she's French. A lot of characters have accents in this game. There's like a German character, and it's weird to convey that in a text-based video game, but
Figure it out.
It does the job. I think this might be a good stopping point.
Cool. Yeah.
It's
neat.
But yeah, there's I'll jump in real quick just to show. So this is like the skill tree, right? In the center, your general skill tree, and then each direction, like those gray boxes, are the elemental skill trees.
Gotcha.
So in here you'll see like spin dance, and it says melee art, and like a wide spin attack. So there's also in that same tree, and you can kind of switch them freely. Another version of that move where it's like a sphere assault and only attacks 1 enemy. So all the special moves have this. And so they all basically, you have 8 special moves instead of just 4. And then all of the elemental special moves have that, except for 1 in each tree. So there will be 2 dash arts and 2 shield arts and 2 melee arts for the fire tree or whatever. So there's a lot of variety in there. If you just wanted to like, I'll switch to whatever the opposite special moves I've been using is, you can go to this fancy switch branches tree and just switch all your branches to the opposite, like very quickly on the fly. You can do that with the other trees once you get them too. So you have a lot of moves. You just, you can only have 12 or so available to you at any given time. But it's enough, I think.
Yeah.
So every time you get a new element, which happens through the end of the game, it does feel like you're getting a whole bunch of new skills and stuff. So if that
also, again, going off of Phantasy Star, they were also the skills you equip in Phantasy Star are also called arts.
Yeah.
Or they're called photon arts.
Photon arts, nice. These are just
that's like the blanket term for all of because there's all different classes and whatnot. It's all this, but it's all the same.
Yeah.
The same concept of your equipping skills you use.
Tails also uses arts, but it's ARTES because they're edgy.
There it is.
But yeah, that's I think that's a good showing of CrossCode.
Yeah,
I feel very good about it, and I want more people to play it. And it's got a lot of cool stuff in it. It just there's so much going on in this game. Like it is.
Yeah, I think I'll definitely get to it as we still have a lot, at least personally as current times go. I still have plenty of free time.
Oh yeah, it's one to add to the list for sure.
Yeah, so I definitely want to check it out more now.
But yeah,
so looks cool.
Thanks for hanging out, everybody. If you like it, check out our other viewpoints with other stuff, and subscribe and whatnot. But thanks for hanging out and watching CrossCode with me, Mike.
Yeah, look at that lady go. There she goes.
Look at her spin. She spins.
Spinning.
But not on the ice because it's hard to move on the ice. Spin.
And those robots just want to horribly murder you.
Come for my death. All right, goodbye, everybody.
Bye.